Konnichiwa, my name is Logan Charles Luna, and this video mainly is going to be another podcast video. First, I'm going to start off by showing you my fan art for Chainsaw Man. And this fan art includes Denji, the main character, Best Girl Power, Riz, Himino, and Aki. Now, I kind of don't want to go really into Chainsaw Man. Like I said in the beginning, this is more of like a podcast video where I'm just going to talk about things I want to talk about. And since we're on the topic of manga and shonen, I guess Chainsaw Man is more of a seinen, but the situation right now with Shonen Jump and Act Age. Shonen Jump, if you don't know, Act Age has two creators that worked on it, the artist and the author. The author did some terrible things, like two underage girls, and it's weird talking about it because this guy, he's awful. And not just that, but so the aftermath of this situation is the artist kind of is the one that suffers the most from the actions of the author. And she's an amazing artist. She really is. Like, the artwork of Act Age was top tier. But, of course, now the entire, manga industry and Shonen Jump, they're going to see her as attached to that guy. That author, he's really put, a dark spot on her career. And Act Age is just kind of being wiped out by Shonen Jump. They're not selling any more volumes. They've canceled it all together. They canceled the stage play that they were going to have for Act Age. And right now, it looks like even digital versions of the manga, they're just being taken down off of websites because Shonen Jump is taking this very seriously. On one hand, that's a really good response. It's what you expect. And on the other hand, what makes this situation different from some of the other creators that had a similar problem, and Shonen Jump still kept running their series and let them end the series on their own terms. Not on their own terms, because they've definitely ended some of the series sooner. However, Shonen Jump's previous response is a major factor in the response that they're having right now. Because right now, they're leaving no stone unturned. They're just really going full out in wiping out Act Age. Act Age, I don't know if people are going to remember Act Age in a few years, because Shonen Jump is really trying hard to make it seem as Act Age kind of never existed. They're really, they learn from the best. They learn from America of how to erase your dark past. And to end that subject matter, that topic, I'm just going to say, I hope the artist gets a new project or teams up with a new author that isn't so problematic, and I hope it works out for her because, again, like I said, her artwork is amazing. And moving on to another subject. The kind of state of Shonen Jump. If any of you like manga, like Shonen Jump, Shonen Plus, Ultra Jump, it's kind of all over the place. Right now, Shonen Jump really does have a problem because ever since the big three, they've never had like a huge hit. And for those of you who don't know, in the early 2000s, the big three were considered to be One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto, in that order. So One Piece, of course, since the late 90s, early 2000s, has just been an absolute juggernaut in the manga industry and the driving force of what's kept Shonen Jump relevant and going for so long. There's a lot of titles that have had success. However, there are only ever two titles who could compete with One Piece. And even then, those two titles, Bleach and Naruto, were ranked second and third. Every now and then, there's a title that will outsell One Piece, but that's just because people have kind of dropped off One Piece, or people wait until they can finish a whole saga or an arc. I know that's what a lot of Western fans tend to do with One Piece. They'll drop off, then they'll come pick up once the saga or arc is over. That way they'll catch up or be about midway through the next one. And One Piece is the king. One Piece is untouchable. And now that's sort of kind of become a problem for Shonen Jump because Haikyuu ended. Haikyuu was another big title that they had, and it's gone. Demon Slayer, what was thought to be kind of a replacement in the big three for Bleach, it's over, it's gone. And My Hero Academia. My Hero is definitely a very popular title, and it's had a lot of success, but it looks like that one's about to wrap up soon too. And to be honest, One Piece probably has one more big saga or arc left. So in the next 5-7 years, One Piece is probably going to be gone too. And that's when you kind of look over to the different Jump titles, like Jump Plus or Shonen Plus. I forgot which one they call it. But that one has a few very interesting titles, like Spy Family. It came from them. And I hope Spy Family gets an anime adaptation. Same thing with Chainsaw Man. I really would love to see a Chainsaw Man anime. And I hope it's a studio that doesn't preferably do CGI or give it over to Netflix, because I'm really tired of things being in Netflix jail. I've been waiting months for The Great Pretender. And that's going to be a Netflix recommendation right now. I think I'm just going to move on into the segments because it's kind of sad talking about Shonen Jump. And just as a reader, it's more about choice, because there are a lot of good manga out there, and it's about what's going on at the top of Shonen Jump. Which manga are they pushing? Is it the right one to give the spotlight to? And should they be relying on One Piece as much as they do? That kind of brings it over to another topic, the pro wrestling side of things. Because To be honest, there are some real big stars in Japan that can like carry the torch after Tanahashi hangs up his boots, calls it quits, because they've been building one specifically for years, for the last 10 years, and that's been Kazuchika Okada. And on the state side, they kind of have the Shonen Jump problem, where they rely on the name, and that's WWE. They're relying on the name, they're relying on the old fans, and they are relying way too much on the past. Right now, for the WWE Championship, what seemingly looks like it's the only championship that matters, honestly. The championship scene is Randy Orton, who's been a WWE staple for almost 20 years now, and Drew McIntyre, who was a WWE guy that didn't find his spot. I think he was released from the company. He came back stronger, better than ever, and now he's the top guy. Unfortunately, during an era where there's no crowds, there's no like big crowd reaction or reception, because before all the COVID stuff, Drew McIntyre was over. Drew McIntyre was hot. But a lot of his momentum has died down after WrestleMania, after winning the WWE Championship. Things have been very stagnant in the company, and that's just kind of showing you the dangers of resting on your laurels and going to the well a little bit too much. And I feel like Shonen Jump is making the same mistakes. And to move on for that, it's time for some Netflix recommendations. Of course, I'm going to recommend Legend of Korra. If you like Avatar The Last Airbender, you're really going to enjoy seasons 3 and 4 of Legend of Korra. I say that because the first 2 seasons of Legend of Korra are very rocky. They're not really even up to par with some of the worst episodes of Avatar. And Avatar has had a few filler episodes, but it feels like half of seasons 1 and 2 of Legend of Korra could have been filler episodes. And it's funny because Legend of Korra cut down the number of episodes to kind of focus more on the story. But even then, it felt like the story in seasons 1 and 2 were important to 3 and 4, but they just weren't handled properly. Which brings it over to my next Netflix recommendation, The Great Pretender. It's the main driving force of why I'm recommending The Great Pretender is because Freddie Mercury's The Great Pretender is the ending song for it. And that's great. That's amazing. Like, it was just a nice little surprise at the end of The Great Pretender where it's like, oh man, that's Freddie Mercury. But the story of The Great Pretender is kind of like The Amazing Race, that TV show, plus Ocean's 11. And if that sounds interesting, then you should go check it out. And I promise there's not too much heist movie shenanigans, like in the Rick and Morty episode where they break down heist movies. Sorry about my voice. I need to stop just like screaming when I work out. Like when I'm hitting the heavy bag or when I'm lifting, like I need to stop like screaming. Because it really is like hurting my voice. And I don't know if it affects these YouTube videos. I don't know if people watch this long. I mean, I could probably look at the analytics, but I feel like my videos don't get enough views for me to care about the analytics about them right now. And to kind of put a cap in this podcast like episode, I mean, it's only like 15 minutes. It's not as long as some of the other ones. I want to close on the fact that as far as like entertainment and media goes, I want to talk about the Avatar live action debacle. The creators of the Avatar animated series, and I think they're also like creators on Legend of Korra. I mean, of course they are. They walked off on the Netflix live action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And the reason they walked off was Netflix was acting like Netflix. So the problem with Netflix is that they entice creators, they bring them in promising the world to them, and they never deliver. I mean, of course, a lot of creators don't care because they got the money. However, the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and this is going to be funny saying it, but apparently they care about Avatar because I think the live action movie has more to do with it than anything else. The live action movie really left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. It goes to show that you need to be very careful about changing things in adaptation. Of course, anytime you adapt anything to a different media, there's going to be changes. You're going to have to kill your darlings. You're going to have to sacrifice some things that you think are important to the story in one medium in order to have a more cohesive story in this new medium. However, it sounds like the creators didn't want Netflix to go down the same road of whitewashing some cast. Like, I'm sure Aang and a few other characters are somewhat accurate to what they would be in the animated series. But aging up the characters, it kind of was to be expected. Like, Netflix isn't going to have a bunch of 12-year-olds running around. Like, Netflix has a certain brand, a certain demographic, and they appeal to teens. At least they try. And they have a bunch of crappy, terrible high school movies, is what I call them, because it's all like, this random generic high schooler does a thing. And Riverdale. Riverdale is a terrible show. It sucks. And there's a lot of people who love to hate watch Riverdale. And that's a bad thing because Netflix doesn't think you hate it if you're watching it. They think you love it. And that's why Netflix is doing the things they're doing. They're trying to mix things up with the live action adaptation, aging characters up, having like romantic storylines. You know, saving the world is going to be the focus on some of these characters' minds. Getting laid is. And of course, the number one thing that I'm going to attribute this to be like the major thing that kind of pushed the creators over the edge and made them walk off. Netflix wants more violence. And by that I mean they want to show people dying in this Avatar series. Which, again, is attributed to their analytics and what they see people want and what they see people watch more of. In the short, to end things off, it sounds like the creators were afraid Netflix was going to take this more Game of Thrones instead of Journey to the West, or Dragon Ball, for those who don't know the story of Journey to the West. And if you finally realize that, oh, those two things have a lot in common, especially since Aang full on acts like the Monkey King, and there's been a lot of characters in anime and shonen in general of acting like that. Like the most famous, Son Goku, but now also Jin Mori, and of course, as mentioned before, Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And the whole purpose of that is, you're afraid of what's going to happen to something you've worked on for years and years. And you know that some of the choices that were made in the live action movie were just terrible ideas. And now Netflix is doing the same thing. Like, it kind of gets frustrating. Like, you just feel these people never learn. And that's true. Anytime there's any progression or there's any real change in entertainment as far as like Hollywood and animation or anything like that goes, it's because the creators were given creative freedom. Because the studios trusted that the creators, the studios and networks, the producers, like they trusted that the creators could accomplish what they wanted and make a profit. If they don't think what your vision is can make a profit, they will micromanage and change the hell out of every little detail to try and make it more marketable, to try and make it more appealing to a massive, wider audience. And of course, Netflix's argument could be like, the people that watched Avatar: The Last Airbender aren't kids anymore. They want something more adult. But there is definitely a balance where you can have more serious adult themes in Avatar: The Last Airbender without kind of corrupting the actual story of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is a story that's somewhat of a dark take on the coming of age story. Because Aang, once it was revealed, hey Aang, you're the Avatar, he ran away. He didn't want to deal with the responsibility of the world. Aang was a coward. And he tries to frame it as his spiritual beliefs that, oh no, fighting and killing, like that stuff is wrong. Like, how am I supposed to face the Fire Nation? Like, the only way I can truly stop them is if I kill the Fire Lord, and I don't want to do that. But then once he talks to air nomads that were the Avatar before him, they talk about making a difficult choice. You risk your spirituality in the fact of living up to your duty as the Avatar. You have to keep balance and save the world. And Aang was afraid of losing his spirituality, losing his beliefs by doing his job. But also, Aang was afraid of losing his childhood. That's why he loves to mess around when he's hanging out with Sokka and Katara, because he's just a kid. And he was afraid that if he accepts his role as the Avatar, like 100%, he's not going to be able to have fun anymore. He's not going to be a kid. It's about responsibilities that were thrust upon him. And that's a great fear. Because Aang feels, although he did graduate to becoming an airbending master, what if he can't master any of the other elements? because airbending has a really ridiculous rule, and I don't know if they've changed this in the canon or anything, but the airbending rule used to be if you create a new airbending technique, automatically you're an airbending master. We'll give you your tattoos, kid. Here you go. And it's just hilarious because the move Aang does the most, the little scooter where he makes a ball of air and just rolls around, that was his airbending technique. That's something he created that was original. It was a new method of thinking of things for the air nomads. So they told Aang, here are your tattoos. You're an airbending master now. And that was easy. But there's no other bending rule that says if you create a new technique, you're a master now. You have to accomplish a certain steps, and you have to reach a certain skill level in fire, water, and earth in order to be considered proficient in it, in order to have mastered that element. And that's what the main fear was for Aang. What if I'm not good enough? Because he did find a solution in the end as well of ending things without killing the Fire Lord. However, his mastery of the elements was very lacking during the final battle. And Aang had to rely a lot on the Avatar state, which is something that gets brought up again in Legend of Korra, and the importance and somewhat of the crutch that the Avatar state becomes. And this is where I want to end the video. I hope it's okay. Or I kind of do want, I'm curious. I'm a terrible person for wanting this, but so bad it's good. It's just such a terrible show. It makes me laugh, and that brings joy to my life. But yeah, it's a really complicated situation on both ends. But majorly in the wrong. Of course, it's Netflix. I don't think the series should get canceled altogether. It was trending. It was cancel Netflix Avatar. But let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Subscribe, join the Patreon, and if you join my Patreon, you get shout outs at the end of these videos. Again, no Patreons, so there will not be any shout outs right now. You get behind the scenes, you see me sketching stuff out. You get to look at the sketches. You get to look at the line art. Higher tiers, of course, better rewards, commissions, voting on fan art, and special digital commissions. Go to my Patreon, become a member. You can read the tiers. And this has been Logan Charles Luna. Until next time, sayonara.